Hello and welcome to God's Hand Link. Decode Occult Science. In mid-July 2025, Tropical Storm Wipha, known locally in the Philippines as Krising, swept across Southeast and East Asia with a trail of heavy rain, powerful winds, and widespread disruption. It formed east of the Philippines on the 16th of July, causing intense monsoon-enhanced flooding and landslides that killed at least 5 people, displaced over 80,000 residents, and damaged infrastructure worth millions of pesos in the Philippines. The storm then passed over northern Luzon before intensifying into a Category 1 equivalent typhoon, slamming into Hong Kong and prompting the city's highest storm warning, signal number 10, on the 20th of July, which toppled hundreds of trees, hobbled transport networks, including grounding 400 flights, and sent over 250 people to shelters. It continued westward into Guangdong, China, making landfall near Taishan and triggering flash flood and landslide alerts across southern provinces like Guangdong and Guangxi. By the 22nd of July, Wipha had weakened to a tropical storm but still brought 102 km/h winds, torrential rainfall, up to 50 cm in some areas, and heavy flooding to northern Vietnam, especially in the provinces of Ninh Binh, Thanh Hoa, and Ingatan. There, at least 3 people were killed. Tens of thousands of houses were submerged or damaged, and farmland losses totaled nearly 3,000 hectares. Overall, Wipha's path impacted the Philippines, Hong Kong, southern China, and northern Vietnam, leaving a sobering record of fatalities and serious infrastructure damage across multiple countries. This isn't just a cold weather report. This is one of the disasters on God's doomsday. So, today, let's pray for Prayer EC Tropical Storm Wipha 2025. Praying for the good people affected by Tropical Storm Wipha to overcome their destiny situation. The following are details about the Tropical Storm Wipha 2025, presented in 5 parts. First, evolution. Second, effects. Third, causes. Fourth, solution. And fifth, manual. The last 2 parts will guide you on how to click the Pray button on the godshand.link website. If you pray sincerely, you will be able to open God's gate to successfully connect with God and receive God's beatitude to successfully help the people you are praying for. Now, let's take a look at the evolution of Tropical Storm Wipha. Evolution. Evolution and impact by region. Mid-July from the 16th to 18th of July. Formation and initial Philippine Sea impact. Formation. Wipha originated as a disturbance in the Philippine Sea around the 16th of July, gradually intensifying. Philippines. Enhanced monsoon rains. Even before directly making landfall, Wipha significantly enhanced the southwest monsoon across the Philippines. This led to widespread and persistent floods that began in mid-July. By the 18th of July 19th, the effects were severe, impacting over 1.9 million people and displacing more than 107,983. Damage to infrastructure was extensive, with 57 roads and 8 bridges rendered impassable, and 1,708 houses destroyed along with 1,153 damaged. Power outages occurred in 76 cities, municipalities, and more than 100 domestic flights were canceled. Fatalities began to be reported, reaching 17 confirmed deaths in the Philippines by the 24th of July. States of calamity were declared in numerous areas. From the 19th to 20th of July, intensification and passage, near Taiwan, South China. Intensification. Wipha intensified into a tropical storm on the 19th of July, and then into a severe tropical storm. It reached its peak intensity as a minimal typhoon as it approached southern China. Taiwan, outer bands. On the 19th to 20th of July, the outer bands of Wipha brought heavy winds and rains to Taiwan. Bainan in Taitung recorded over 600 mm of rain. This led to flooding and landslides, blocking parts of highways and railway lines. One pedestrian was tragically killed in a car accident, partly blamed on the storm's effects. Hong Kong and Macau, near miss, direct impact. On the 20th of July, Wipha tracked closely to Hong Kong and Macau. Hong Kong issued its highest warning signal, number 10, for the first time since 2023. The storm caused major flight disruptions, with hundreds of flights canceled or rescheduled in both Hong Kong and Macau. Fallen trees were widespread, and several people sought medical treatment for minor injuries. Flooding was reported in some areas. Southern China, first landfall. Wipha made its first landfall near Taishan in Guangdong Province, China, on the 20th of July as a minimal typhoon. It brought heavy rain and strong winds to coastal regions, including Guangdong, Guangxi, Hainan, and Fujian. While initial impacts were significant, some areas were reported to recover quickly. From the 21st to 23rd of July, landfall in Vietnam and dissipation. Weakening and Gulf of Tonkin transit. After its first landfall, Wipha gradually weakened to a tropical storm as it moved west, southwestwards into the Gulf of Tonkin. Despite weakening, satellite imagery on the 21st to 22nd of July still showed it as relatively well organized. Vietnam. Second landfall. Wipha made its second landfall between Hung Yen and Ninh Binh provinces in northern Vietnam on the 22nd of July, further weakening into a tropical storm. It brought fierce winds, levels 9 to 10 with gusts up to 11 to 12, and unleashed heavy rainfall, high tides, and widespread coastal flooding. As of the 24th of July, Vietnam reported 3 deaths, 1 missing, and 5 injured. Around 720 houses were damaged, and 3,848 submerged. Over 119,000 hectares of rice paddies were inundated, and nearly 3,300 livestock animals were killed. Flights were canceled, and airports were closed in Haiphong and Quang Ninh. The storm also triggered dike incidents and put pressure on hydropower infrastructure. Dissipation and remnants. Wipha continued to move inland over Vietnam, gradually weakening into a tropical depression by the 23rd of July, and its remnants dissipated on the same day. Thailand and Laos, residual impacts. As the remnants moved west, southwest, they continued to bring heavy to very heavy rain and strong winds to northern and upper northeast Thailand, and parts of Laos on the 23rd to 24th of July. In Laos, this led to severe flooding in northern and central provinces, damaging roads and disrupting daily activities. People in these areas were warned of flash floods and overflows, especially near foothills and lowlands. Effects. Overall effects of Tropical Storm Wipha, July 2025. High human casualties and displacement. Confirmed deaths. The storm has caused at least 33 confirmed fatalities across all affected countries. The highest number of deaths was in the Philippines, 17, followed by Vietnam, 3, with additional fatalities reported in China, Taiwan, Thailand, and Myanmar. Injuries and missing persons. At least 36 people were injured, and 21 individuals remain missing, raising concerns that the death toll may continue to rise as search and rescue operations conclude. Mass displacement. In the Philippines alone, over 1.9 million people were affected, with more than 107,983 forced to evacuate their homes. Thousands more were displaced in other regions. Extensive infrastructure and property damage. Widespread flooding and landslides. Torrential rains from Wipha triggered widespread flooding and numerous landslides, submerging vast areas and causing significant structural damage. Housing and buildings. Thousands of homes were either destroyed, for example 1,708 in the Philippines, or damaged, submerged, for example 720 damaged, and 3,848 submerged in Vietnam. Transportation networks. Critical transportation infrastructure was severely disrupted. This included 57 roads and 8 bridges, rendered impassable in the Philippines, and numerous roads blocked by landslides in Taiwan. Flights were extensively canceled, with over 100 domestic flights in the Philippines and 140 international flights in Macau grounded, stranding thousands of travelers. High-speed train services in China and railway lines in Taiwan were also suspended or affected. Utilities. Widespread power outages affected hundreds of thousands of households across the Philippines, Vietnam, and China. Monetary damages. The Philippines alone reported over 4.22 billion pesos, approximately $85.63 million in damages. Initial estimates for Hong Kong suggested potential nominal damages of up to 2 billion Hong Kong dollar, approximately $255 million. Severe agricultural losses. Submerged farmland. The storm caused extensive damage to agricultural sectors. In Vietnam, over 119,000 hectares of rice paddies were inundated, raising concerns about food security. The Philippines also reported affected fish stocks. Livestock losses. Thousands of livestock, including nearly 3,300 cattle and poultry in Vietnam, were killed. Widespread economic and social disruption. Interrupted daily life. The extensive damage and service interruptions severely disrupted daily life for millions of people across the affected regions, impacting travel, commerce, and access to essential services. Emergency response. Governments activated high levels of emergency response, mobilizing military personnel for relief efforts and declaring states of calamity in the hardest-hit areas to facilitate aid and recovery. Long-term recovery. The extensive damage to homes, livelihoods, and infrastructure will necessitate significant recovery efforts and investment, posing a challenge to the economies of the affected countries. Causes. Warm sea surface temperatures. Scientists have linked Wipha's rapid intensification and powerful winds to unusually warm ocean water in the Northwest Pacific. This provided abundant moisture and energy to fuel the storm, an effect consistent with climate-driven warming patterns. Boost to the southwest monsoon. Before forming into a tropical depression near Luzon, Wipha, locally named Krising, intensified the southwest monsoon, habagat, leading to heavy rains and flooding across the northern Philippines. This interaction underscores how even a tropical disturbance can exacerbate regional weather patterns. Favorable atmospheric conditions. Wipha developed under low vertical wind shear and adequate upper-level atmospheric support, conditions that allowed it to maintain and reinforce its core structure as it intensified. It also originated from a tropical disturbance in the Philippine Sea, which is typical for storms that form during this season. Global climate change influence. Climate experts have suggested that radical shifts in global weather patterns are making storms like Wipha more potent. Warming seas are fueling more intense rainfall and stronger wind speeds, increasing the likelihood of heavy monsoon rains and flash flooding, in line with the broader trend of intensifying tropical cyclones. Above is a detailed summary of the causes behind Tropical Storm Wipha in July 2025, as reported by news sources. But if the main cause is God's doomsday, what should we do? Solution. Solve by a reform prayer in Pray God's Will page at https://godshand.link/praygodswill, address, with a phrase search as Prayer East Sea Tropical Storm Wipha, 2025. Praying for the good people affected by Tropical Storm Wipha to overcome their destiny situation, sentence. And click Pray button. Here, you can also scroll up and click on this video to see details about God's supreme message. Follow God's doomsday to pray God's will. Manual. For more information about how to pray on the God's Hand Link website, please refer to Pray God's Will user manual page at https://godshand.link/Pray God's Will user manual, address. By clicking the Pray button, you have contributed to helping the good people who are victims of this catastrophic storm. Your small acts of kindness are like seeds that can grow into a forest of compassion and love. Helping others is not only about material support, but also about spiritual support. Because the material originates from intention, a prayerful intention of yours will bring about the transformation of the material world according to God's will. Thank you for helping. God's hand link. Thanks for helping. To decode occult science,